All right, hello. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about rendering in Onshape and Fusion 360. Before we get started, thanks to Alan Gregory from Team 3847 Spectrum for requesting this video. First off, for those of us who aren't familiar with it, what is rendering and why do I care about it? Rendering in the most basic term is taking CAD data and displaying it. So technically, what we're looking at right now is a rendering. Oftentimes, when people talk about rendering, they're not talking about this kind of rendering, though. They're talking about photorealistic rendering or close to photorealistic rendering. Um, this that will be what we're going to be trying to do with Fusion later in this. So why would you make a render of a robot? One, it's fun for some people. Personally, I don't really like making them very much, but I do like competing in catathons, and catathons tend to have some sort of requirement for a rendering of the robot, and they tend to judge you really hard if you give them a rendering that's just a screenshot. So, because I like competing in catathons, I learned how to make renderings. The other reason that you might do it is because you want to make something like a technical binder. So, something like this for judges. You want to make a bunch of pretty pictures for judges to talk about your robot because judges love pretty pictures. And as a team, giving judges pretty pictures to look at can help you win awards. And that's a great thing. So that's why you would do rendering. Some people also like rendering just like as a pure art form, and like it's just fun for them to make something that looks really cool. So I'm not one of those people. I'm super lazy about rendering, and I will be in this video talking about how to render things in the laziest way that I possibly know how that still produces good results. So before we talk about photorealistic rendering, I want to talk a little bit about the built-in Onshape stuff, because some people don't know about the tools that Onshape gives you for rendering, or taking good screenshot type stuff. So we'll go over those really quick. So for all the rendering stuff in Onshape, that's all over in this menu up here, the camera and render options. And they give you a bunch of options, shaded without edges, which I don't know why you would ever select that. Shaded with hidden edges, don't know why you'd select that either. Hidden edges removed, which looks pretty cool. Hidden edges visible, also looks cool. Translucent, that's a mess. Curvature visualization, probably useful for somebody. I typically just keep it unshaded, or I go to hidden lines. That's like, if you look at the backgrounds of all these, those are all hidden lines drawings. They look great. You also have an option to turn on perspective. This helps you make something that looks a little bit more real, even if you don't really care about real for like an Onshape screenshot type thing. When you're getting screenshots out of it, the thing that a lot of people do is they just take a screenshot and use that. But what I like to do is print, download image. And the reason I like to do print, download image is because it lets you do a little bit of framing up the shot, right? And then when I download this, this is going to be a way larger resolution than this zone on my screen is, which makes it more suitable for print applications and just generally looks better. So you can just download image. That's great. Highly recommended. You can get landscape or portrait. Yeah, it's pretty great. So that's what I'll typically do if I want to get out a shaded drawing or a hidden edges removed drawing out of this. But we're not here for that kind of drawing, really. That's just some fun facts. What we're here for is talking about photorealistic rendering. To do that, we're not going to use Onshape. Onshape has some apps that do rendering. I've tried them. I've tried a couple of them. I'm not really happy with them. They're kind of a pain, and I hope that somebody comes along and makes something better for Onshape that's built into Onshape. Because for now I have to export it to another program. The two main programs you can do exports to are Keyshot and Fusion 360. We're going to talk about Fusion 360. The reason for that is that Fusion 360 is a lot more easily accessible to students, mentors involved with FIRST Robotics programs. And by more easily accessible, I mean you fill out a form on their website versus Keyshot where you have to like email somebody. And I don't like emailing people really, so I avoid doing that when I can. So this is super easy. Also because I'm pretty sure that even if I did a Keyshot render, I'm not sure how much better it would look than a Fusion render because I'm just trying to minimize the time I spend on that. So anyways, getting stuff out of Onshape. So we'll want to just export this. And even if I want just a part of this, I'm still just going to export the entire thing because we can hide things once we get into Fusion. One of the things you'll note before we've done any of the Fusion stuff that we're going to talk about is that I've colored a lot of stuff already. Whatever, anything that's going to be blue in my end render is already blue. Anything that's going to be white is already white. There are some different kinds of grays. Pulleys have a gray. Belts have a different gray. These wheels are a different gray, black, right? Those are all going to be different things once we get into Fusion. And we'll use the fact that those are different things in here to help color things useful. So it's useful to color things if you're planning on rendering, even if like your software doesn't, even if Onshape doesn't have a really good built-in rendering. So anyways, we'll export this. And I've already exported this, so this isn't going to be me actually downloading this. I don't hate you. I'm not going to make you suffer through downloading this and then re-uploading it to Fusion. I typically download as Parasolid. If you download as Step, that's fine. It uses the nice version of Step that will have colors, and that's great. So now we're going to bounce over to Fusion. So you can see I've already have it imported. If I didn't have it imported, I would select upload up here and then select files and upload from there. If I did that normally, it would start in design. We aren't designing anything in Fusion. We designed all of our stuff in Onshape. Thank you very much. But we would switch over to render. And we're already in the render tab. And I have something turned on already called in-canvas render. For a not great computer, you might not want to have this on. And that's just because it's taking some computer time, it's taking some horsepower to render a view of the robot. And I pre-rendered this because to kind of show you what this looks like before we did anything. And you can see that it doesn't look bad. Like looks pretty okay. But we can do a lot better with just a minimal amount of work. You can see down here, this took 212 seconds to render to this point. So the first thing that I like to do to start off with is to set up the scene a little bit more. So we go to the scene settings, and we're going to play with some stuff. So first off, we're on a background color. You can have a not a solid background color. They give you some like environment type stuff to do. I've never been able to get those looking really good, so I just stick with the solid background color. Again, we're going for minimum effort, maximum looks. So I'm going to pop this up to like 245, 245, which is kind of a more white look. And we'll also pump up the lux, which is just the brightness. You can see as I do that, it's re-rendering things. And that's why this is part of why I like to have the viewport on, is because it's a little bit better at like telling how the light is going to hit it, which is can be kind of hard sometimes to do otherwise. So you can see like I can really crank this up and make it look way too washed out bright. We're gonna like pop this down to like, I don't know, 3500 lux. I don't remember what I typically do. I just play with this until it looks good. Um, you have some options in here. You have reflections, flatten ground, perspective. Sometimes it can be nice to play a little bit with the perspective. You can get a little bit of depth of field going. That like, I don't know, it can be nice when you're playing with some like mechanism renders. So we'll turn that off. Play with the focal length. Focal length is basically how perspective-y it is. So you can see at the very low end, we can make it look just kind of like some sort of modern art. And if we like just crank it up, like you can see, like we kind of can go pretty severe to starting to look a bit more reasonable, right? And kind of the more wider the focal length is, the closer it's going to look to that kind of drawing-y kind of look that we get in Onshape without perspective. So we'll leave it around 85. That's probably fine. That's good. And you can see as it's doing this, it's just going to continue running. Look good. So that's probably good enough setup for now. So now we can use materials. So part of the deal with Fusion is it does kind of a physically based rendering thing that's kind of nice. And it'll give us some options. So you can see right here, we have all the things that are already in this design. And you can kind of see these are all just like opaque 67, 72, 77, right? That's corresponding to RGB values. So what we'll do is we know from here, like 234, 234, 234, that's going to be something that's white in here. And to kind of verify, like what we're going to use these two is these will let us swap to something else. So right now this is just sort of like a flat material, but we can make this like powder coating, a powder coating kind of material. So we'll pop back over here and we'll check out, switch over to the intake part studio, and we'll see what color these are just to make sure. You can see edit appearance, and we can see this is 234, 234, 234. So if I swap out over in Fusion, all the things that are 234, 234, 234, it'll swap out everything in here to that. So move that to a powder coat. Powder coat is under paint here. We'll do a smooth powder coat. And let's say that I've redecided what I care about, and let's see. Material download unsuccessful due to product update. That's great, Fusion. Thank you very much. Can I not restart you right now? Let's see. Well, I think we'll have to use some that are down here. So I already have some of these. So like this is powder coat white. This is a personal one. The way I get there is, so I'm just gonna swap that out. And you can see, you'll be able to see, so now that 234, 234 is powder coat white, and everything that's in here has changed to be powder coated white. So like this part, everything in here that was previously that, and I keep on messing up Fusion things because Fusion decided that they needed their own rotate methods. So like if I zoom in on this, and turn on in canvas render again, we should be able to see they sort of resolve to something a little bit more powder coating like. And like if I wanted to do this appearance, where is it? You know, things kind of moved around. So unfortunately, Fusion doesn't have a great way. There's probably options somewhere to like view this as not a mess um, of opaque whatever. But that so if we wanted to like make that, we could also change just this part. So like if I wanted to make this fire orange or something, you can see now that's fire orange. And because we're getting rendering, you can see some of the light bouncing off over here. It's using kind of a ray tracing type deal, not accelerated by my GPU very clearly. But yeah, we'll move that back to white, right? So that's basically the deal there is that'll swap stuff out. We'll also care about swapping out some of this blue stuff. And if it's looking ugly to you on screen, it also looks ugly here because it's taking time to like actually turn this into something that's rendered. So we'll take a look. I think it's this blue. We have a couple of different blues. I think I intentionally chose some different blues for different purposes. But we'll pop over to here and verify not material appearances. So it's 20, 40, 137 is going to be our magic blue. And notice I don't have a blue in here. For some reason, I forgot to save that last time I did this. But nice thing, we can say, let's swap these all to fire orange. Very quickly, everything is fire orange. But I don't actually want them to be fire orange. Also, it turns some things that I don't want to be orange. Our Fairlane wheels are not going to be orange. So what I can do is I can edit this and I can make it, it'll save this. This will still be here. But if I want this to be something else, like for example, 20, 40, 137, I can say blue 20. You can see it being reflected in real time. And we make everything blue. Now things are the right blue. I think, so one of the other things that I've done here in Fusion, so like I use dark tinted polycarb. So I have a dark tinted polycarb material. One of the things you can see here, so there aren't a whole lot of those things. I'm just going to drag them in here. So if I replace it here, you'll notice I grabbed that one and I grabbed this one because they're the same part. That'll happen across anything. And it's pretty useful. So dark tinted polycarb. And I can turn off in Canvas render so it looks a little bit pretty for you all at home. So other things that I want to go through. So like we went over Fusion appearances. There are a lot of appearances, metals. If you look at metals, you can get your anodized, glossy, gray, black. I tend to avoid like some of the brushed or just in general things with textures. I don't think generally look very good, so I try to avoid those. One of the things that we might want to do, for example, on this guy, which so let's like hide some of this. And I don't remember how to hide some of this stuff. So if we hide, like, trying to remember how this all is organized. If I hide the shooter, okay, don't hide the shooter, hide the pivot. So you can see these bolts in here. These are shoulder bolts, which means that they have a pretty distinct look if you've ever seen a shoulder bolt, where a lot of it's black oxide, but this center bit is like a steel. So I've saved some of these that are my favorites. I'm going to try to navigate you to where the black oxide is right here. Yes, black oxide coating. And so if I want these to be black with that silver, I can take that and then where's my steel? We'll do it as stainless steel and then say, how do I, come on, faces, sorry. So it's apply to faces. And there's not a good way for me to, so this is what happens when I get into Fusion World, and it's also why I don't go into Fusion World very often. So you can see, there we go. We just applied it to all of those, right? And that's kind of the deal. It's the difference between bodies and components and faces. So like in a lot of cases, you want to just do an entire thing as blue. But when you don't, sometimes you want to modify a face. And that looks great. Again, like I was saying, so you can favorite things. So like get back over here. If I wanted this to be favorites, it's already part of my favorites. Just right click it, add to favorites. Other favorites I have, so rubber, soft, and hard. I will like set one of these guys. Oh, sorry. It should just be the entire thing. And there's some missing stuff in here. Say those guys. And you'll notice, right? Like, so if I look at this from the side, right, these guys are kind of like plasticky now. If I make them rubber, they get a little bit, they get this like weird texture thing, which really starts showing up when you render, which will take a minute. But you can kind of see that they get a little bit more dull. Other things, so I made a like took that one same way that we modified the other one, made a like custom 6-inch like a gray tread one, so we can apply that to those. And then these wheels are that Fairlane blue, so I've modified that to get kind of more of that vibe. All right. And then sometimes like other things we do nylon. So like nylon's what a lot of like Markforged type printed stuff looks like. Anyways, so that's kind of materials. A whole lot of stuff you can do with materials. I have not really gone very deep with them, but a lot of people have. And I'm sure that you could find a lot more information on those from other people. So I guess final bits. So let's say I just want to render the shooter in here. If I did that, maybe I would start hiding a bunch of stuff. And for some reason, I didn't put these rivets in one of the sub-assemblies, which is on me. So you can see that if I do it like this is just going to like come out as sort of floating in the air, which may be fine for you, but also might not be. If it isn't, um, I think that there's some scene setting stuff we can do for that. We'll skip that. I don't actually remember how I did that, or whether I've done that ever. I'm not sure I ever have. Let's say I frame this up somewhere. I try very hard to get Fusion to. I have no idea how Fusion's work for whatever rotation is working right now. This is utterly bizarre to me. What the heck, Fusion? It says something that I do this in Fusion, despite the fact that I can't get Fusion to consistently behave the way I want it to. Let's say that's good enough, I guess. Sure, why not? Looks great, super pretty, magical. I want to render this for some reason. So we can render locally or we can render in Autodesk Land. Autodesk Land is great. Autodesk has great computers that can render things really fast for you if you have an educational account, which fortunately I do. And you can see it says 2 credits required. I have magical education credits, so that's great. They have different options for like what kind of render quality you do. I just do them at final, and can change like what the size of this is. It's going to render like basically what the viewport looks like. So for this, we can just say quick Autodesk render my thing. And it'll think about it for a second and tell me that Autodesk is now rendering my stuff, but hide it behind here because for some reason a UI designer thought that was a good thing. And theoretically, it should pop up down here, but maybe because I need to update not Onshape, Fusion, it's not. So yeah, there we go. So you can see it's rendering. That means that it's waiting to render. What this looks like on like a full one. So like what this looked like when I did it. So let's pop over to this land. You can see, right, that I have a bunch of these down here. That's what it'll end up looking like, right? Once it's all rendered. Anyways, that was rendering from Onshape into Fusion 360. I hope you found that useful. Let me know if you want to see something else. See you next time.